me try that again. Sorry. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mean Green Gridiron podcast. I am joined once again by the author of The Hunger Games, Carter. Carter, how's it going?
Hi, Billy. It's going swimmingly. 7-1 football season has me in just a joyous state. The weather's nice. It's a good time of year. Basketball and hockey are back. Sports equinoxes are happening left and right. It's just It's a good time. It's a good time to be a North Texas fan.
I like the way you said my name there. That was unique. Hadn't heard of that.
You didn't introduce yourself. I had to let the listeners know.
Okay. Yeah, good catch. I did, in fact, not introduce myself. But yes, I am Billy. With that, as Carter said, great time of the year, great time for sports fans, and great time for Mean Green fans, sitting at 7-1 after the thorough demolishing of the Charlotte 49ers in Charlotte, North Carolina, 54-20. It was quite the Friday night weird game. A lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very scary, poor first half performance. But throughout that performance, there were a lot of Drew Mestemaker yards, and those continued in the second half. 608 yards passing, school record, broken Daniel Meager's 2007 record on 15 less pass attempts. And because of that, because it was 15 less pass attempts, I don't feel as bad about, the way it was a little bit very intentionally attempted to break the record there at the end. But yeah, like I said, very, very good game from Mestemaker. I thought it was funny on his like ESPN QBR. They only gave him a 42.6 out of 100. So maybe not the best endorsement for that particular stat. His regular QB rating went up a ton after that performance. But what are some of your takeaways from that initial takeaways from that Charlotte game?
Well, as far as Drew goes, those yards snuck up on me as a viewer. Yeah. Maybe it was just because of how the first quarter and a half went for the team, where it just kind of felt like we talked kind of at various points throughout the year. We were like, maybe keep an eye on this game as it might get weird. And then Charlotte started looking really, really terrible, and we were like, we're fine. It should not be an issue. And then we just had some issues because you just have to when you're playing on Friday night in a weird ESPN game against, a bad team. That's just apparently how it has to go if you're North Texas. But they survived. I remember. It's not like our offense wasn't moving the ball well. I know there were a couple big drops in the first half.
Yeah.
Including that Terrence Lewis one that would have been like 50 yards. But I remember like somebody on Twitter was like, Drew's at 320 yards with like a minute to go into the half. And I was like, what? And I thought it was like, I thought they were exaggerating. And I checked my ESPN or CBS app, whatever. And sure enough, he had like 310, 320 yards at halftime, whatever it was. And I mean, everything after the second half looked just perfect. It looked like, at a certain point, you just have better talent than the other team. And we definitely have more talent than Charlotte. I did talk in the preview show. I think Tim Albin's a really good coach. I thought I was actually pretty impressed with how Charlotte, came out of the gates swinging, and they weren't going to roll over and just let us walk all over them. And they played two really good quarters of football. I don't really love some of the stuff I saw from our defense, but it's fine. I think one thing we've really gotten better at this year is in-game adjustments and halftime adjustments. That's not something we're really used to as North Texas fans. It usually feels like, at least in my time as a fan, I've kind of been suffering with we come out with a game plan, and if it doesn't work, we're just going to abandon all hope, and we're screwed. And if another team goes up, what were we down? Was it 20-10 or something? 17-7, something like that? I don't know.
17-10, maybe.
It is not often in my just about 10 years of being a fan here that we've gone down 17-7 and not only came back to win, but came back to win by 30 plus points. outside of the USF game, really, I mean, you could talk about Western Michigan as being a great example. Army, I know we blew the lead, but still, just the composure our offense had to win that game going into overtime. UTSA is another great example. I mean, there's just multiple games this year where it really feels like this team does not lose its cool. I think USF was just an example of everything going wrong in a very short span of time. And, obviously you're asking a lot to have 12 perfect games where you can handle any adversity you face. But, yeah, I mean, I wish we would have controlled the game a little bit early on. On the script, you'd rather have that be a game where you go up, 28-6 or something, and then you can just kind of F around and call whatever you want the rest of the way. But like I said, I mean, at halftime, it's clear that our coaches are better, at least than they were, at reading what's going on in game, figuring out what offense they're running, figuring out what we can do to at least kind of slow it down and make some adaptations. And they did that against Charlotte. So not really going to nitpick a 34-point win. Certainly could have gone a little bit smoother, but, Friday weirdness, like we talked about, just getting out of there with a win is the most important thing. And we had people just at one point saying, like, I don't care if we win by 3, just win.
Yeah.
And we won by 30. So there's not much to complain about. Drew was awesome. White Young had another great game, and we got out of there healthy. So nice precursor to Navy. But yeah, it was a good win.
Yeah, I agree. Javen Nicholas, their receiver, was kind of going beast mode on us for a while there, and it was kind of, on one hand, it was frustrating. Like, why are we letting him do this to us?
Yeah.
But then, on that deep pass, not the catch and run, but the deep pass he caught over, I think it was Evan Jackson and someone else. It was like, all right, it looked like we had it schemed up fine, and he just ran by them. And then Loftus threw a great pass. Like, I can't get mad at us for, being relatively in good position. You kind of just, even a team like Charlotte, you kind of have to tip your hat to them sometimes. Obviously, there were plenty of, unforced errors or mental mistakes on our side, but, like you said, the talent, allowed us to pull away at the end. The yards difference, we had 754 and they had 399. So you basically double up the team in yards. Even when they had the lead, I think we were well ahead of them yardage wise. Like it was obvious that things were coming easier to us. It was a matter of time, but it was just the longer it took to get there, it was a little bit more nerve wracking than I think we originally anticipated. And I said this, even back to the preseason, like the fact that we had to travel there on a short week, Friday night game, and it wasn't a short week for them. They had a full week and we're playing at home, whereas we were, we had the short week travel schedule. So I always knew that wasn't the best recipe for, an exact approximation of what UNT football might look like. But over the course of the game, you were able to pull it off. I thought Kiefer Sibley, I think I mentioned it last time, but he's been a really nice addition to have back. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
McGill and Hawkins was a nice combo, but I think you're starting to see Sibley's speed like that with Hawkins' ability to run between the tackles and catch passes. Like that feels like a really formidable duo. So Sibley, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 7 carries. I think that was another good performance. But what else do you want to talk about for the Charlotte game?
We were great on third downs, 416. That's what I wanted. I wanted a good game against a bad team on third down, and 416 is the successful night. We only held them to 104 rushing yards, which is, I believe, the best. Maybe Lamar. I don't have the Lamar stats, but I would assume at least the best FBS. We've played against an FBS team on the rush defense this year.
Yeah, it was Lamar only had 31, but yeah, that was the best against, like you said, the FBS teams.
Yeah. And then, one thing I actually found kind of interesting, I know he had 2 touchdowns, but Caleb Hawkins had a little bit of an off night, wasn't kind of in his normal I'm the Terminator and gonna just destroy everybody in my path kind of mode. He only ran for 48 yards on 13 carries,
Yeah.
and he missed a couple of really key blocks. I think in both in the first quarter, at least the first half. I don't just maybe he had an off night. I don't know, but nice to see that we can still generate 54 points and a crap ton of offense, even if he's not 100% or playing his best game. Certainly not calling him out because he's a very huge reason we're 7-1. But yeah, not a best game from Caleb Hopkins, and we still. I mean, I think we've talked about a little bit this year just how beneficial it is that we have such a spread out offense. You have 300-yard receivers in this game, which that should happen if you have a 600-yard passing performance. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think kind of last point, at least on my side, what we've talked about the last couple of weeks is you're at the point in the season where you want to have, multiple reliable options and kind of know, okay, if this doesn't work, we can go to this guy. If this doesn't work, we can go to this guy. And as far as health goes, I mean, we're super blessed to be where we're at. We're not really missing anybody key on offense. We got 4 games left. So just nice to see that we're still diversifying and getting everybody the ball. Trey Williams had a quiet, good game, 60 yards, 5 catches. Dalton Carnes, that tackle he had on the fake, that was awesome.
I mean, if he doesn't make that tackle, they pick up that first down.
They pick up the first down, and I believe it was still a 1-score game.
Yeah, it was 27-20.
Mm-hmm. So shout out Dalton Carnes. That was one of the best plays of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of my last point is just I'm glad that I talked about it too in the I can't remember which game it was. I think it was the South Alabama. It was the South Alabama game where I kind of said, I don't want to blow this team out. I want to win close. I want it to be a little bit testy. And
right.
Just see what this team does when they have to scramble and have to audible and try something else. And, if you had told me going into the game that Caleb Hawkins would have under 100 all-purpose yards and, it would be 17-7 Charlotte at one point, I would not have liked hearing that. But to have a score come out where you win by 34 and completely control the game after halftime is very promising. So, I again, you could nitpick and say, well, who was it on defense? Was it Fisher in the first quarter where he was just
he was getting picked on.
Yeah, he was getting picked on a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there are some splotches to nitpick here, but I don't really think it's necessary. You win by 30, and pretty much after halftime, it never was really in danger. I know it was close through kind of a little bit of the third, but we have one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and he played great and threw for 600 yards. I'm happy. It's a good win.
Yeah, and one thing I think you touched on was the third down defense, and
they were awesome.
2 weeks ago, you pointed that out, that our third down defense was, I want to say, like 130th in the country at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We are, after the last 2 games, we're now up to 111th in the country. So
hey, there we go.
Yeah, going in the right direction there. Decent third down performance against UTSA, and you blow them out 55-17. Decent, or even better performance against Charlotte. So, stacking together some third down plays. UTSA was 4 of 11 against us on third down. So, again, going in the right direction there. That's really helpful to see. You don't want to, I know that our odds aren't great at this moment, but you would not want to be going into a college football playoff game against a college football playoff team, and your third down defense is like 130th in the country. That would be a recipe for a very uncompetitive, potentially embarrassing blowout. So, regardless of the team's aspirations, that's just a good movement in the right direction. Another thing, just real quick, I want to mention with regards to the Charlotte game is something that I talked about last week that I really like to see, a trend that I like to see, is that we're getting to the point now where we are starting to focus on who we're going to get the ball to. And early in the season, we played Washington State, and we had, I want to say, double-digit guys catch passes, like 12 or 13, something like that, guys. we also had just a bunch of different guys that were kind of vying for like who's going to be the number one receiver. We had Coleman, we had Young, we had Sides, Dorner, Evans, just different
Right.
guys who we felt like it could be any one of these guys. Um, these last few games, mostly kind of think because of injury, but also just because like now we kind of know who's who on this team and who we want to get the ball to. Wyatt Young's had back-to-back 100-yard games, finished with 190, including that 70-yard catch and run on the screen pass. Cameron Dorner had 117 yards and a touchdown, and Landon Sides had 114 yards. So it feels like we're starting to feature guys now. Obviously, you mentioned Hawkins didn't have the best game rushing, but he was still effective in the passing game again, 2 touchdown
Sure.
catches. It feels like we're now starting to feature guys, and we're getting to the final stretch of the schedule. You've got Navy, who obviously is the biggest opponent left on our schedule, and then from there, if you beat Navy, you're playing for an 11-1 finish. You don't want to, it's not time on the schedule anymore to be, trying out your top 5 guys and seeing who stands out the most, or having a 3 running back rotation and seeing who has the hot hand that game. Now it's the time where you know who you are, you know who your top guys are. Give them a steady dose. Give them a steady dose of Wyatt Young, of Cameron Dorner, of Caleb Hawkins, and then take your chances with the opposing defense trying to stop that. So again, another promising direction there from our offense of seeing, all right, we've got guys who we're featuring now, and they're getting in a rhythm. Wyatt Young took a little while to get going. He didn't have hardly any receiving yards up until right up the last drive of the first half. In the second quarter, he started picking up some steam. Again, that's the good thing about being able to feature guys, is that they don't just get lost in the shuffle after they get maybe off to a slow start. Like you continue giving them chances, you continue letting them get into a rhythm, and then all of a sudden it pops. And that's really, I think, what I'm glad to be seeing here is, these guys are getting in a rhythm. They've got the chemistry down with Mestemaker now. So now it's just a matter of, seeing if the other team can stop them.
Yep.
That next other team is going to be Navy. They are currently 7-0, and coming into Denton, probably one of our bigger headlining teams that we've had in Denton in a while.
Sure.
Obviously, South Florida, similar situation. Probably not going to have quite the attendance because of the game time. You had Army coming in last year. All kind of seems to be on that similar level. Definitely what you'd like to see going into the American is what you wanted to have these high-profile games. Navy, of course, 7-0, but not the best, not the most impressive looking resume if you look at the scores and the margin of victory. What are your initial impressions of Navy coming into this one?
Yeah, I agree. Their resume is not super impressive. I'm gonna try to bite my North Texas tongue there and not let that impact my thoughts of how they're going to approach this game, because it's North Texas, and that is not a recipe for. I don't know. I'm not gonna look at a team and say, oh, well, they haven't really beat anybody. Like, yeah, they are still one of the most efficient rushing offenses in the country. Remember their quarterback's name, who I conveniently forgot to.
Blake Horvath.
Horvath, yeah. Dude's a beast. We had problems with Bynum Brown. This is another guy that's going to give us, fits. As far as the magnitude of the game, arguably could end up being more consequential than the USF game, which is not something we really. I mean, we knew Navy was decent a couple weeks ago, but I don't know. You told me after the USF loss that there was going to be another game that might have even bigger stakes.
Yeah.
Would have made it sting a little bit less. It sucks. It's at 11 a.m., but I got the report today that I think the numbers are looking really good. It probably won't be a sellout, but it should at least be kind of a UTSA or bigger type crowd where, most of the stadium is pretty full with some sprinkles of empty, but it'll still be a good environment. I'm excited. As far as the game itself goes, for a team like us that struggled all year in the run game, I'm a little worried to see what Navy's going to be able to successfully do. I would look to the Army game as a little bit of a building block there, but you know, I don't know that Navy definitely has a better defense than Army, and I'm not totally confident that this is going to be one of those games where we get some sort of commanding lead and like I don't know. I don't know. Can we get back to the turnovers on defense? Can we, you know, can we create turnovers and score fast and diversify like we just talked about? There's a lot of things that I think would have to go right for this to swing our way. That being said, you talk about the strength of schedule for Navy, and there's not really anything that jumps out of plain sight as being something really to worry about. But this is the American, and they're clearly in the upper tier, one or two of really, really good American teams. I don't quite know if they're USF good or Memphis good or whatever, but um, we don't play Tulane this year. We don't play Memphis, so this is kind of our last chance to really prove, hey, North Texas, who's kind of floating around kind of the bottom of that tier right now, where
Yeah.
we had some really, really good wins this year, and our offense is awesome, but who's our best win? Washington State. Okay, well, now you get a chance to, leave your mark on the American this year. And I know Navy still has to go play Notre Dame. I think they play South Florida too after Notre Dame.
Yeah, and Memphis. So they got
And
they have a
Memphis,
rough.
yeah, they've got a couple
rough.
big games left. So obviously, the best case scenario for us is that Navy loses to us and then wins out.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But all that being said, I think this is a really, really huge opportunity. I do think a lot of things have to swing our way for this to be a win. I don't think Navy's any sort of rollover despite their schedule. They are, like I talked about, their rush offense is, I believe, ranked number one. I think they get like 300 rush yards a game or something. So, like I said, you have the Army game to kind of work forward to, or kind of look at to see, okay, how do we operate against this type of offensive attack? But I don't think it's going to be as easy as Army was, and even that game was still close on the road. So I wouldn't say I'm nervous. I think this will probably end up swinging our way, but I think it's going to be close. I think we're really going to have to grind this one out. I'm looking forward to a chance to really have a win to hang our hats on. I know UTSA was awesome. I know Washington State was awesome. We have a couple good wins this year by our standards for sure. But as far as, like I just said, that upper echelon of the American goes, if you want to prove that you can be in the tier of Memphis, South Florida, and Tulane, really, as the three, not to exclude Navy, but those three programs kind of emerging as like the best tier of American talent. You got to prove you can win games like this. And when your only highlight on the schedule against that upper tier is a 63-36 loss, you really need to take advantage if you get another opportunity. So everybody's healthy. I know Drew's coming off a 600-yard game, and I don't expect him to upend that, but would definitely like to see some momentum from that. And everybody's healthy. I like our chances. I think it's going to be really tough. I think it's going to be a bloody, bruisey battle of a game, but I do like our chances here.
Yeah, I think you touched on their rushing offense. They're number one in the country in rushing yards per game, and our defense is 129th in the country in rushing yards allowed per game. So that right off the bat is probably the least promising thing about this game and about this matchup. They're going to run the ball. We're not great against the run. They're really solid on third down. They're 14th in the country on third down conversion percentage offensively. We're still 111th in the country defensively on third down. So a few instances of kind of their really strong strengths against our weaknesses. That is, it's going to be huge. You're not expecting to hold them to, 150 rushing yards. Like they're going to get well over 200. The question is, how effective is it, and how much are you able to maybe get a turnover here and there, maybe get a big stop on 4th and 2, and get the ball at midfield, something like that, where they think they're going to pick it up. How much can you show up on those just big impact plays? I think that's down to down. It's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of, first down, 6-yard carry, 5-yard carry, just, a lot of situations where they have their favorable down and distance. But can you pop that, 1 5-yard sack or
Right.
get a fumble. We didn't turn over Charlotte once. So, our defense obviously has turned over teams a ton this year. Hopefully we're due for some more on Saturday because that would be huge. Like I
Yeah.
said, down to down, it's going to be a rough one, but you have to be able to make plays. We had Ethan Day made another sack. He's starting to come on lately again. We've got a little bit more depth in the defensive line, I think, than we were hoping some of these guys would hit, and some of these guys have. Huddleston's hit, Ethan Day's hit, and then Vilea, that was a rough loss, but you've got now some other guys who've got more experience now stepping up. Can you continue your trend on third down of being better than what you were, going into the last few weeks? Then offensively, it's going to be the opposite. I think we've got a really solid, obviously number one scoring offense in the country. Navy's defense isn't great, and not only are they not great, but they have, like you said, they haven't been tested
I would call
against
their pass defense bad.
Yeah, they are. What was it? Yeah, they're 117th in the country in passing yards per game. So definitely a lot to be able to exploit there in the passing game. Throw the ball on them. They do have Landon Robinson, their defensive tackle, already has 5.5 sacks this year. He was a kind of preseason all conference guy. You definitely want to keep him off of Drew Mestemaker, but the offensive line has held up well in pass protection. That's something you hope can continue. And yeah, assuming it does, the opportunities are going to be there in the passing game. Wyatt Young, Sides, Dorner, Miles Coleman, maybe if he comes back, Trey Williams, like just continue doing what you've been doing and keep putting pressure on their offense. I think whenever you got a team like this in Navy, a ball control offense, the thing you want to do is make them play from behind, make them try and get a little bit more urgency than what they're used to. They're used to obviously operating slow, operating methodically. Get them behind and see if they can maybe make some mistakes that they wouldn't have otherwise. That's definitely a big key. You wanna get up early and have a shot to make Navy's offense play a little bit more frantically. What are some of the things you're kind of looking at going into this one?
Yeah, we talked about the pass defense for Navy. I think we've played really well against teams that don't defend the pass. Obviously, you want to give Drew some time to get comfortable. So I don't think the offense is going to have one of those kind of like couple moments this year where we like have just kind of look stalled out and we have to kind of freeze and figure out where our openings are. I don't think that we're going to struggle to put points on the board, but like you said, this is a team where you really want to jump out early and kind of make them have to answer on offense. Really, just obviously, we're going to talk about Blake Horvath a lot. He's really good. He's kind of like that Bynum Brown, kind of like offensive general type of player where all eyes are going to be on him. And I don't love what I've seen this year from our defense when it comes to like RPO defense or any sort of option where we kind of have to quick. All of a sudden, they're changing the player. They're throwing us off. Like I don't think our response time is great as a whole.
Against like that misdirection kind of look.
Right. So Navy's a team that can pull that off. So we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled against this team. Having said that, I don't think this is a defense on Navy that can bully us to where we are out of the game at any point.
Yeah.
I think if you look at kind of the USF game and what happened, obviously, we're going to be talking about that like 5-minute stretch in the third quarter against USF for the rest of the year. It's just it's one of those really unfortunate sequences where we have that muff punt going into halftime, and then we just had a stretch where we turn the ball or we let them score right out of halftime, turn the ball over, they score, and then we turn it over again, and it's just like everything comes apart at once. But even with that, I mean, there hasn't really been a point this year where our offense has been kind of put into a corner and really not been able to figure something out. And this just does not look like one of the defenses that's going to be able to do that to us. Now, I think it's a game where, they're going to keep us on our toes as much on their offensive side as we are on theirs. I wouldn't not be surprised if this enters shootout territory. Yeah. I think we're going to be able to pass really well. I don't know how great our run game is going to work against them, but kind of like you said, we have Caleb Hawkins at the 1 and a rotation of guys back there, and you're not you're not throwing them a bevy of options. You have one guy who you're going to try to beat him with, and if that doesn't work, you have, you just go down the line. So, I think this is a shootout. I think it's going to be a 6 to 8 point win swinging our way, but to get there, you have to be able to generate a turnover or kind of build off, like we talked about, that third down momentum, where we're definitely getting better at it. I think the last couple games, UTSA too, we played really well on third down. Generate some punts. Obviously turnovers are big, and we've turned over teams way better than Charlotte, who we had 0 against. So I would like to see some sort of, if you could force a fumble, hit a guy in the mouth, make him pop the ball loose. I don't know what you got to do, but a turnover or two really could swing this game, which is obviously pretty self-explanatory anyways, but especially in a game like this where you got 2 really good offenses and 2 questionable defenses. Turnovers are important. So I like luck on our side in this game. I think there are enough metrics and intangibles that swing our way. If we don't mess around and play with our food, kind of like what we talked about with Charlotte. And again, going back to that, like I said, there have been moments this year where we have played with our food, and a defense will throw something specific at us that makes the offense kind of freeze and have to reset and try something else. But every single time they've answered the call, at least to some extent, and stayed in the game. So this doesn't worry me. It doesn't stress me out. It is going to be a really good game. I don't think it's going to be like an easy cakewalk of a win, but I do think we're going to win this game. I just want to see enough, kind of just like that last point we made, where just everybody on the offense is doing their job, and we're not having to try new things and get weird and whatever. This isn't a game where you have to, divert from what works. Pass the ball. Drew Mestemaker can pass the ball really well. Navy doesn't defend the pass. Just pass the ball. Like, you'll be able to throw the ball with success this game. No stupid red zone picks that Drew has. I feel bad complaining about anything that he does because he's so enjoyable. But he does love throwing those red zone picks once in a while when we're marching down the field with ease, and then we get to the 12 and he just slings a bad pass on a slant route and gets picked. None of that. Just limit your mistakes, run your offense like the machine that it is, and you should be fine. Oh, did I lose you? Did I lose Billy Sierra? Billy Sierra's gone. Hey, everybody. Welcome to my Mean Green podcast. Gridiron podcast, football podcast. I'm going to keep talking until Billy comes back. He is not back yet, but when he is back, I will be sure to let everybody know. I'm going to text him right now and ask him where he is and if he's alive. Hope everybody's having a good week. I don't really have any jokes off the cuff. I was talking with somebody about doing some stand-up. At some point, if I lose a bet or something, I'll think about it. But I don't have any quips off the belt here. Weather's nice. It's feeling good outside. If you're a fan of the winter, if you're not, then maybe it's not so much nice for you. Although I can't imagine, I've never understood how people like summer. I'm not a beach person. I'm not I wouldn't say I'm not outdoorsy, but I like when it's cool and rainy and wet and gray outside. Because I get the opposite. Whenever people talk about like seasonal depression, I'm the opposite. I get really happy when it's all nice and cold and cool and windy and just disgusting outside. That is where I thrive. So, if you're the opposite, if you're one of those people that loves summer, reconsider your life choices, because it is by far the worst season. It's too hot. We all live in Texas. We know how hot it gets. See any news? Any sports? World Series. Toronto has a 3-2 lead on the Dodgers. Kind of a big deal. I'm trying to think when the last time the United States lost to Canada in a I guess it would have been the Raptors winning the finals. Was there another Canadian championship? They don't have an NFL team. And the Maple Leafs haven't won a cup. Yeah, I guess it would have been the Raptors winning the World Series or Raptors in the NBA Finals. Sorry, in 2019. Two games from them, and yeah, pretty great World Series. If you survived the 18-inning game, much respect to you. I did not. I fell asleep one inning before the magical walk-off. Uh, in global news, the government is still shut down. At least it was last time I checked. But maybe by the time you listen to this, it will be unshut down. Or maybe not. There's your politics for the night. I don't know. You guys hear about this sports gambling news that's broken the sports landscape? Apparently, there's NBA players who were gambling on the games. Crazy. You can't do that. So they got arrested, and maybe they can go investigate Nico Harrison and get him fired or incarcerated or something. That'd be awesome if you ask me. But maybe undo the Luka trade. We'll see. Billy says he'll be right back. Oh, there's Billy.
Hey, everybody. I am back.
You don't have to cut any of that out. I kept the viewers.
Yeah, no, I heard a little bit. I was able to join, but for whatever reason, it wasn't connecting my mic and my my camera. I was able to hear some nice weather commentary and
Thank you.
Some summer versus fall stuff.
Yeah, which one are you? Are you a summer or fall guy?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fall guy, but I appreciate the summer much more than you do. It sounds, but but yeah, no, I love me the fall.
Yeah, I've had enough summer. I've lived in Texas for 30 years. I'm good.
Yeah, if it didn't take so long to get through, I think it would be a little bit different. But it just lasts so long.
I can agree with that. If we're talking like May to July, then fine. But Texas summers are really March to September, and it's not fun. So,
oh, man. Okay. Well, yeah, Carter did a great job there talking about Navy there at the end, and just kind of talking about this game and our our worry, our concern level going into it. Like you said, they just defensively, it seems like the options are going to be there. Running the ball, we haven't run the ball great. At least 2 of the last 3 games. South Florida really seemed to stymie our running game, and then it seemed like the Charlotte game, we popped some long runs at the end there that kind of inflated the stats, but by and large, yeah, we weren't running the ball great. Gabe Blair was out. That'll be interesting to see if he's back.
Yep.
Ugonna Nana started at left guard, and he himself has been out most of the year, so he was able to fill in. And it did seem like maybe that could have contributed to a little bit of it. Navy's, one of their strengths on their defense is their 2 defensive tackles, Landon Robinson, and I forget the other one's name. I think it's something Willis. But yeah, those Griffin Willis. So that'll be a good matchup to see. Like, can our interior offensive line, can they get push against those Navy defensive tackles? And they're the typical Navy defensive tackles. They're 6 foot, 280, 275 pounds. Like, they're not big hulking dudes, but they're gonna be able to squeeze their way through the line and make some disruptive plays. That's something that you have to be able to prevent. Caleb Hawkins, you mentioned he didn't have the best game, 13 carries, 48 yards. The thing I keep thinking back to with Caleb Hawkins is, like, this is probably like the longest season of college football he's ever really played in terms of just practices and how early fall camp starts in like August and July they're doing workouts, and so I can't. And then obviously the toll, he's never been tackled by men of this stature before and this size and speed. So
And
the thing
he's taken a lot of helmet to helmet hits this year that have kind of gone uncalled. Not like targeting, but just
yeah.
he's been getting clocked.
Yeah, there was one play against Charlotte where it was kind of like one guy was pulling him down and he was on his way down, and another guy just comes in for a clean out shot and
Yeah.
just kind of not the best. So, with that kind of situation, I do wonder, is Hawkins, is he going to be able to kind of maintain his effectiveness the more hits he takes, the more tackles, the more times he's tackled, and just week after week we've got to buy in a few weeks, but until then, it's kind of, you're playing every week, and you just got to fight through the pain, fight through uh, the the fatigue, and just all of the little nicks and
Yep.
bruises. Is that, can he be effective in the run game? Can this offensive line and Hawkins and Sibley, can they be effective to the point where now you've got, 2nd and 2 because you got an 8-yard rush on first down, or now you got, now you're already at the 50-yard line because you popped a 20-yard run, things like that. If you can have that, I think you win this game.
Yep.
I think Mestemaker is going to have more success through the air. I think the defense our defense is going to struggle, but if our run game can be there, I think that really helps in terms of sustaining drives, keeping our defense, getting our defense some rest, because it's going to be a battle going against that offense, getting them as much rest as you can, and then just relieving pressure off Drew Mestemaker. It felt like against South Florida there was a little too much being asked of him, both in terms of the moment and the fact that we weren't running the ball well, and just all of the hype and everything else surrounding the game. It just felt like a lot to put on a 19-year-old kid who's only started however many games at quarterback. So
Sure.
yeah, that running game is something that I'm going to look for in particular on Saturdays. Can we run the ball effectively, consistently against that Navy front? What are maybe some other kind of maybe final thoughts you have going into this Saturday?
Yeah, you talked about the moment. I mean, my hope would be that this team kind of uses this as a chance to get up after getting punched against USF. I know they had 2 games since then, but um, this is a chance to really make a statement. And I like you mentioned, I don't want to have one guy be asked too much of them. I don't think this will be that kind of game. I think this defense gives you at least enough of a breathing room to kind of work some stuff out and kind of get the ball distributed better, maybe than USF did. Um, Feels like we can kind of go back to our up tempo maybe a little bit this week, which we haven't really done since the USF game. I think the tempo's kind of gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think you might be able to run a little bit of faster offense. Um, Again, I don't think that this Navy defense does enough to slow down the offense for us. I think there will be maybe a hiccup or two, but this feels like a game where you can pretty safely bet we're going to score 30 plus. Um, that might not be enough to get you a win, but I'm fairly confident we're going to score 35 at least. And like I said, if you gun to my head, I think this will probably end up being kind of like a 5, 6, 7, 8 point win somewhere in that bubble. Maybe you win it on the last drive or a drive or two before, but I don't think there's anything that Navy does defensively that worries me to the point of we've got to really reconsider how we've done things all year. Uh, Stick to your game plan, pass the ball. Hopefully, you can run the ball a little bit better, like we talked about. But I think you can get away with 100 rushing yards and still win this game. And so just stick to what works. You have a really good quarterback, really good receivers, and you can beat this team through the air. So that's what I would like to see. Just don't get tricky. Do what works. Stick to the script. Should be enough to win this game. Horvath's going to be tough. I'm a little worried about the defense and how well they run and how poorly we defend the run. But at that point, it's our guy versus their guy, and I'm taking our guy. So
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely going to be that component of the game of they're Horvath and Teska is another solid offensive player on their side, and our guys Hawkins and Messmaker of who feel like who's better, who can outmatch the other. But yeah, no, I'm feeling the same way as far as this kind of being a game that comes down to the end. I think we're gonna have some chances. We've been hyping up Skylar Cassidy all year long. Just the improvement that he's made overall to the defense, while the defense not necessarily being great, down to down. So this is a chance for him to make a staple win of like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
my defense was able to get a big stop on fourth down against Navy, and then we scored and won the game, or get
Yeah,
a, force a turnover in a pivotal situation, and we, went on a 14-0 run that kind of
absolutely.
swung the game. Something like that where, I think we can look back at the season and say, Skylar Cassidy's big performances were, Washington State, where his defense just kept getting turnover to turnover, and we blew them out in the first half, and Navy, where it was a dogfight, and they came out with the plays that they needed to win that game, even though they didn't, maybe give up a lot of rushing yards.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm hoping to see out of his group, and I know, like I said, it's going to look ugly at times. They're going to have times where it's like, man, we cannot stop them. They're running the
Yeah.
ball down our throats, and it sucks, and it's hard to watch. But can you make the key plays that matter, that help swing the game in our favor? That's what's going to be the big judge of how this game turns out. But with that, I'm going with my final score of 38-35. I think we make just enough plays to come out on top. I think we have just a little bit more talent than they do, and we're at home. And I think that they're going to come in ready to play. They're going to come in with an experienced group. They have that advantage in the NIL era of the Service Academy guys stick it out 4 years, whereas we get a new roster every year. But I think we come out on top.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm gonna go 10 points. I think we win 52-42. I'm
That'd
sticking
be a
with
fun
my
one.
little bit of a shootout, but I think there's enough of, like I kind of talked about. There's enough intangibles that swing our way that I think Drew's just going to continue doing what he's doing, and really, if as long as you don't make too many mistakes, don't shoot yourself in the foot. This is a game where you can score 40, 50 points, and I don't know that 30 is enough to win, but 40 or 50 should be. So I'm going to go 52-42 with my Mean Green here, and kind of like we talked about a couple times going into this area of the season. If you told me before the season we're 8-1 with a win over Navy, win over
Yeah.
UTSA, win over Wazoo, and our only loss is to South Florida, I am ecstatic, and that's exactly how I feel now. I would obviously like to be 9-0, but 8-1 would be pretty nice. I'd wake up real happy on Sunday. So
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to a nice Sunday coffee after a Mean Green win against Navy. That would be a very tasty cup indeed.
yeah,
But with that, if you made it this far, thanks for listening. I don't know if I will post with or without the the missed segment in the middle. If you hear
they
it,
should leave it in.
yeah. If you hear it, then you've got the director's cut. Congratulations. And if you don't, then maybe I'll sell you the director's cut on the side somehow.
Sounds good.
But yeah, thanks again for listening, and hope you can make the game if possible and go Mean Green.
See you out there. Go Mean Green.